your time on those videos.
Anybody out there? I can hear you. It's really wonderful to see such a nice, enthusiastic crowd. You know, I give a lot of speeches in Washington, but believe me, I don't get that kind of enthusiasm on house. It's usually a pretty empty auditorium when I get to talk up there, but I get back to my sanity when I get out of Washington, get home, and get to visit with people like you, so it is a real pleasure to be here. And you know, about a year ago, we announced that the revolution was beginning, but today we say, let's continue the revolution. Before I get started, I want to make sure everybody here, I'm sure you already do know, but Mark Frost put a lot of energy into this activity tonight. Not only that, but organizing this county and around the state. If we have somebody like Mark in every state, believe me, this will turn into a grand revolution. Give you a few little updates on politics. I hear that Peter Schiff is doing quite well. Maybe then there's a doctor in Kentucky that's running for the Senate, and he's doing well. Media has been generous. They've talked to both of us at times about what he's doing, and they asked me if I've given him any advice. And of course, I don't really give him advice, and I've suggested things and asked him questions. I said, "Are you really sure you want to give up a perfectly good medical practice and go into politics?" And he said that I had no room to even question that. But all of us have other things to do, but we're all engaged in the preservation of liberty, and that should be our goal. That should be the goal of all political action, is the preservation of liberty. With our freedoms, all our other problems can be solved in a much better way than they're expected to be solved today. Earlier this evening, I ran into a gentleman and he asked me about fairness in elections. Why don't I do more to make sure all elections are fair? And it is true, elections aren't always fair. There was one time not too long ago that I had a problem with election. It was in the early years of the 1970s where we actually thought an election was stolen. But this should just surprise us all, because don't we have a very active CIA making sure all the elections are fair around the world? And if the election doesn't come out quite right, we have a new election and we do it all over again. But back in the days when we had a contest, we actually had a lot of evidence and brought it to court, and one gentleman was called before the judge, and the judge just says, "Young man," he says, "do you know you're being charged for voting 7 times?" He says, "No," but he says, "I thought I was getting paid." Fortunately, we don't have to worry about that right now, because ultimately, elections are key, obviously, and we're involved. But ultimately, it's what's in the hearts and the minds of the people. What is the philosophy of the country, the philosophy we believe in? Do we believe in socialism, welfareism, interventionism, and all this? And if that's what the people believe me, that's what we get in Congress and in Washington. And the prevailing attitude has been wrong for a long time. That is why what is going on today is not a partisan revolution. It's a philosophic revolution to change the hearts and minds and philosophy of the American people and saying, we want our freedom, we don't want oppression from our federal government. I have argued that when we are successful, and we're becoming more successful all the time, it will affect across party lines. It's very difficult to introduce new ideas in a new party because all the laws are biased against competition. We don't have a very good democratic history in this country because it's narrowed down to two parties, and when you look closely at them too often, they look like they're the same party. For that reason, many of us do work in the major parties, and I certainly have worked in the Republican Party and been a Republican congressman. But what we need to eventually do, though, is to make sure these ideas are across party lines. Now, when we're successful, the ideas will permeate. Just like Nixon explained it all to us on August 15th, 1971, he says, we're all Keynesians now, and he was absolutely right. But today, we have an issue that we have made very bipartisan for the right reason. Sure, you can say it's bipartisan when you're handing out, TARP funds and bailing out, so-called bailing out an economy, and Republicans get together and rip us off, and they call that bipartisanship. And I'm talking about the other kind of bipartisanship where ideas permeate. And I would say that we have achieved this to a large degree, calling attention to that very important issue and getting both Republicans and Democrats on board on auditing the Federal Reserve System. My new book. But, and like I was saying, this has been a bipartisan effort. We have all the Republicans and we have 104 Democrats. And I think Alan Grayson was introduced earlier on. I believe he may still be here. But Alan has actually, done a lot of help for us in getting a lot of Democrats names. We do have a long way to go, though. We are making progress. But when we see crowds like this, people who are not strongly identified with one party or the other, that are willing to work hard to promote liberty, believe me, we're on a roll, and we have to continue this. We have to continue the momentum. This is the key. But we have to know what we believe in. And, of course, it can be summarized rather easily. Liberty, most people talk about liberty, but few people really define it and understand it. Liberty, to me, means I have a right to my life, to my liberty, and to the fruits of my labor. From my government. My rights come either in a natural way or in a God-given way, and they come to all of us equally. And if we are to have a small government, that government should be restrained in limiting its powers and authority.